Thank you and good morning. I actually I tried surfing for the first time last year in Portugal. And I may surf on the internet and technology, but my skills surfing in the water are a little bit questionable. So we won't dwell too much on that. Ivan, great to see so many familiar faces. It's great to be back here in Budapest as well. My name is Johnny. I run a business called SocialTalent, and I'm an ex-recruiter. I guess you're never an ex-recruiter. I've been in recruiting for 25 years plus. Very passionate about hiring excellence and how do you bring hiring excellence to teams, to organizations. I believe in the power of hiring well, hiring at the highest level across a whole organization. And I have the pleasure of working with digitally millions of recruiters to try and upskill them and hiring managers and other folks today. Please do reach out to me online if you have any questions that we don't get to talk about today. But I want to talk about AI because as you heard, I set up SocialTalent when there was another major change happening in recruiting. That was the growth of social media back in the late noughties. I think we're in the middle of a massive change right now, arguably much larger than that is transforming our industry and making me very excited. And I hope it's making you very excited too. I'd like to start maybe by just figuring out in the audience here, how are we using AI in our jobs today? Hopefully you'll be brave enough to put your hands up. But I'd love to hear in the audience just some samples and examples of how you might be using AI in any way, shape, or form in your recruiting job today. Anyone brave enough to throw up their hand first? First of all, who's using AI at all in their job? Awesome. I think about 2/3 of us. So for those of you who had your hand up, all of you should be able to answer this question. How? Can anyone volunteer how you're using AI? Gentlemen here.
I'm using it to draft recruitment emails, to optimize JDs, to help me with copywriting. That's some examples.
You're embracing many ways, Dragos, to use AI.
Thank you.
So job descriptions, drafting emails, copy, lots of examples.
Yes.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. The gentleman just down from you.
Yeah.
Somebody else had their hand up there?
Just wanted to add creating summaries of meeting notes.
Yeah.
I think this is a fantastic tool.
Meeting note summaries are fantastic use of AI. I love that. Thank you. Anyone else got a great application? You don't need the mic. It's okay if it's too far away. Lady here.
We're using it to actually take notes from the interview. So we have a tool called MetaView. It listens to the conversation and makes summary of the interview forever.
I love that tool. I use something similar for my performance reviews. Who here has to deliver performance reviews to their team on a regular basis, quarterly or annual basis? Keep your hands in the air if you hate it. One of my team, she was doing her feedback and she shared it with me and I was like, Nicola, that's amazing. And she smiled. I said, did you write that? She revealed she didn't. And she let me in on this secret. So now I do all my performance reviews by speaking to ChatGPT. I don't type any of it. I just turn on ChatGPT, I turn on the mic and I go, so Nicola, what did you do well this month? Blah, 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 blah. I speak for about 5 minutes. I say, summarize that for a nice performance review in my style, blah, blah, blah. And it spits out almost word perfect what I copy and paste into our HR system as well. And it works nicely. Everyone gets great feedback. It takes me 5 minutes per performance review and it's genuine. There are loads of examples. I'm glad some of you shared it here today of how we're using AI in recruiting. So when I think of AI, I think of two categories. And by the way, there are two types of people in the world. The type of person who puts everything in two categories and everybody else. I'm in the first group that there's two categories. But let's say largely to simplify things, there's two kind of broad categories of AI that we can use in recruiting. The first category is kind of what I would call our workflow tools. So that might be stack ranking tools like HackerRank. It might be automated search tools that might be in your CRM, job posting automation software, dynamic assessments. You could be using chatbot applicant tools. These are the types of technology that are purchased by your organization, by the boss, whoever she is, right? And for most recruiters, you're not directly involved in making those decisions. It might take some time. If you're a very large organization, it might be never. Waiting for these things to happen, all the legal people jump in and stop you from doing wonderful things. They're kind of out of our domain. And a lot of talks I've seen on recruiting in AI talk about those tools. And the people in the audience go, yeah, but I can't use them. So I want to talk about the second category, which I prefer, which are the co-pilots. Things like ChatGPT, Gemini, you might be using Azure GPT, Microsoft's Copilot built into their software as well. These are things that we can use immediately on our phones. Even if your organization blocks these things, which many of you might do, I know you're using them on your phone anyway. Just like when companies tried to block social media back in 08, 09, and all the people in the office were like, yeah, I use it on my phone. And you can't really control those things. Although there's good reasons why in recruiting you might want to give people the tools so they're not using their own. I want to talk about co-pilots because I think that's where there's real power that we can utilize today. And I think some of the examples that we've heard shared this morning are probably using co-pilots. Is that fair? Those who put their hands up, you're probably using some sort of co-pilot. Wonderful. Before I dive into this though, I want to just point out a study that was I found really interesting, published by a Harvard Business School author just before Christmas, called Falling Asleep at the Wheel. And there's many, many studies that are being done these days on AI in the workplace and its effect. This one was actually done on recruiters, which I thought was fascinating. There's very few done on recruiters. And the researchers took about 200 recruiters working in a very large firm, and they had them do a bit of work trying to assess candidates for a job that required mathematical skills. So fairly standard mathematical skills where if you read the CV, you could understand, does the person have the math skills or not have the math skills? So there's a lot of subjectivity to it. And they gave each of the recruiters AI tools to use. So there's 3 different groups. There was a control group that were given nothing. And then there were 2 other groups, one given a reasonably okay AI, 3 other groups, one given a poor AI and one given a really amazing AI. Now, the first thing that they observed is that every recruiter with the AI performed better than the recruiters who had no AI, hands down. Could they use a co-pilot to help them assess these mathematical candidates and review tons of CVs, look at the notes? Absolutely, it made all of them improve. But interestingly, of the 3 groups, poor AI, okay AI, and brilliant AI, which of those do you think performed the best? Hands up who thinks the poor AI performed the best. The medium AI and the really good AI. All right? So the really good AI did a brilliant job, right? It did, okay? But of the very good and the poor, the very good AI, they found did a worse job than the poor AI. They found that recruiters using a not so great AI that wasn't terribly accurate performed better than recruiters who relied on a more accurate AI. And the reason the researchers believe this to be is that when it had a really good AI, the kind of recruiter sat back and said, well, the AI is doing all the work now. But the AI wasn't perfect. And when it was poor, when the recruiter could noticeably see there was errors, they put more effort, measured literally in the time it took to review each CV and all the notes. They put more effort in and had a higher quality result. So AI generally works better. It's better than having no AI working with you, but you've got to be careful you don't fall asleep at the wheel. And this is my thesis on using AI as a co-pilot. It is not doing the work for you. It's really important to know that. It was put to me by somebody much smarter than myself, whose book I'll recommend towards the end, that these co-pilots should be seen as a PhD assistant. Like ChatGPT-4, for example, is like a PhD student who works full-time for you. 23, 24 years of age, doing their PhD, who will do anything you ask them to do extremely quickly. That doesn't mean they'll do a better job than you. It doesn't mean you won't check their work. It means they're really smart, they'll do great research, they'll give you the information, but it won't always be right. And you shouldn't always take it as verbatim as being right. You should use your skills as an experienced recruiter to say, well, that's brilliant, thanks for that work. I'm going to tweak it because I know a bit better than you. That makes sense? So I thought what we'd do is rather than talk about how you can use AI, let's use AI. Gabor and the team told me I couldn't use live tools today because the internet couldn't be used properly in the screens. So I recorded a screenshot of this. But normally what I would do is, and I'd encourage you all to do this, I would just take out my phone and we'd start working. All right, so I did a hypothetical example a few nights ago to see if I could show you some of the things that ChatGPT can do that some of you are probably using and some of you that are probably not using. So let's give this a go. So I'm using ChatGPT 4.0. So this is a paid account, costs 20 euros a month. for a full-time PhD assistant to work for you. Trust me, it's good value, but free gives you pretty good results as well. So let's see. I started off by telling ChatGPT that it was an executive search recruiter working for a large executive search firm. It's usually better to let ChatGPT know who she is, what she's doing. Don't just give her the instruction. So I'm at the top of my game. I work for some of the biggest companies in the world, filling their top jobs. I'm now hiring on behalf of Audi in Hungary for a director of finance, all right? And I want some help with a job spec that's going to basically find me great candidates. This is the most obvious use case for recruiting. Hopefully everybody's using this use case. I thought I'd start with something simple. With unbelievable speed and precision, it's given me a really good job spec that actually is customized for Audi Hungary, knows the location, describes the company, gives me a good idea of what I'm looking for. It's phenomenally fast, phenomenally accurate. Brilliant. Not going to be perfect. So I said, that's great. I noticed when I was going through it that I didn't use you, your, and yours language, which I know from my research drives higher level applicants. It's more we, our, us. So I said, let's rewrite it again using more you, your, yours language, which rather than me going through it one by one and changing every word, boom, I put the instruction in and it spits out a new version of the job spec and it's got all the words I'm looking for, a much better version. Fantastic. So now I want to tell the GPT that we have a real focus on D&I at Audi. I want to make sure that this job spec isn't masculine coded, because masculine coded job specs tend to dissuade women from applying. So it's done an analysis. Normally you'd have to use an expensive paid tool to do this. It does the whole analysis, goes through this, and it's rewriting it with a more neutral tone because it did find some masculine coded words in there that are going to not dissuade men, but will dissuade women. So brilliant. It's now neutral, but I don't want it to be neutral. I want it to be more feminine coded because again, a feminine coded job spec, I know as an experienced recruiter, will attract the same amount of men, but will attract more women. And I want to maybe drive that diversity here. So it's done that. It's removed those masculine words, and now it's introducing more feminine coded subtle words. Brilliant. So next up, I need to develop a list of target companies that I might try and search for talent for to headhunt people for this director of finance job in Hungary. I've never worked in the Hungarian market. I'm not too sure about the automotive sector. Let's go for 20 companies in Hungary in the automotive industry that might have the right candidate for me. Off we go. You'll tell me yourself, do they look like good companies? What do we think? Pretty all right? I thought it was phenomenally fast, accurate, giving me summaries, insights. That's fantastic. Now I want to use that as a search string in my database or in LinkedIn. So can I turn that list into a Boolean search string to search LinkedIn or Profession or some other CV database and remove the word Hungary from the job title? I don't think that will work. As you see, we've got a Boolean search string and then we can just copy out with perfect syntax. You know, myself and Jose and others would have had to teach everyone how to do this. So brilliant, I can copy and paste that. Brilliant, give it feedback, nice job. Now can you design a table showing me the pros and cons of each employer from a candidate perspective and basically kind of tell me the strengths and weaknesses. How does Audi compare to these companies? Because I'm going to have to go out to market and highlight why we're better than these companies and understand which of these companies isn't great or is fantastic. So again, off we go. Look at it, building a table on the fly. Each company, the pros, the cons, demanding workplaces, using data that's on the web from employee feedback on all these different companies. I know it's going ridiculously fast. Apologies for this. So all these things, good salaries, what's bad, high workload, high expectations, brilliant. So now I've found a few potential candidates. I've done my searches and I want to approach them. So we're thinking about how we approach people. I'm conscious that they're senior, probably get a lot of approaches on LinkedIn. It doesn't matter if you misspell stuff on ChatGPT and in their emails. So I need to make these emails highly personalized and unique for each candidate, okay? I want to suggest a good opening email. I want to talk about 3 paragraphs, maybe 3 sentences long. These are 3 sentences long, right? Let's change that with a closing question. So it's come up with some suggested draft emails. Not usually a big fan of that email. Didn't think it was great. So what I want to do is maybe personalize it more to somebody who might be a good candidate. So I found one candidate. They're a director of finance with ThyssenKrupp. She is there 5 years. So I'm reading off her CV or LinkedIn profile. She immigrated from Poland, seems to be a fan of AC Milan. Can you design a personalized outreach message? In fact, give me 3, including one with humor. Let's see how this works, right? So here we go with our personalized messages. I hope this message finds you well. Your 5 years of leadership. As an AC Milan fan, you know the importance of strategy and teamwork. Okay, as a fellow AC Milan, etc., etc. So I've got different options. None of them I'd probably use verbatim, but they're not bad. So let's move on. Great, I use message 2, but it's been a week and she hasn't replied. Can you draft a follow-up email? So again, the follow-up email, it's polite, respectful. I can copy and paste that. That didn't work. She still didn't come back to me. My last attempt needs some humor. Can you come up with a good pun or similar to use in my last outreach message? So here we go. Hope this message finds you well. As a fellow AC Milan fan, I know sometimes we need to go into extra time to secure a win. Bit corny, not bad. I wanted to, etc., etc. So we can use it to play around. So let's say it worked. She replied. And now to interview this candidate, I want to conduct a good behavioral interview focusing on, let's say, some of the key skills. Working to tight deadlines and pressure, that's really important. Attention to detail is really important for this job. And presenting to senior executives, obviously at director of finance level. Can you design some interview questions, including some probing follow-up questions for each of those questions as well? Because again, I want to go in and do a really good interview. Straight up, each area, attention to detail. I've got my question, my follow-up question, presenting to senior candidates, additional probing questions. So give me a real template and structure to use on this interview. These are perfect. I want to use them for every candidate, but I want to ensure that we measure or rate candidates in a consistent way because there's a few people involved in the hiring team. I want to make sure we're using a standard rubric. Good practice, most companies don't have them. They're a pain in the ass to develop. Can you design a rubric for this? Showing examples between 1 and 5 that can standardize. It gives me each of those skills. It gives me 1 to 5, what the description is, examples, so that every interviewer can make sure that we align, and when we hear the right answer, we're giving the same score for the same answers. Brilliant rubric. Brilliant. Next up, I want to assess her values against Audi's. Can't remember Audi's values again. I have them somewhere. What are they? And basically, could you go through them? So then, these are Audi's values, dug from their website, whatever it might be, with a good summary. Fantastic. 8 of them, don't care about reading them too much. Can you design similar behavioral interview questions and a rubric to assess for the values? That's the next round of my interview. Again, it spits out for each of those values. Perfect rubric, examples I can use. This is a lot of work that most of us just don't do to be consistent, good interviewers. So the ease in which you can have somebody do this work for you, help you scale, whether it's for a client, a hiring manager, the whole hiring team is fantastic. We stopped that. Really helpful. Final interview. I'd like the candidate to work through a case study. Most of us don't build case studies. They're hard work. Can you design a case study that focuses on how this candidate would manage costs in an automotive environment? What I want to do here is it should take no more than 2 hours to prepare. I don't want the candidate to spend too much, and 30 minutes to present back. Please design something that I can give to the candidate to research and prepare, but also something for me, the interviewer, some notes and guides about how I assess this. Off we go. It's going to give me the case study that I can copy and paste perfectly to hand to the candidate to come up with a scenario. It's given me her instructions, and then it's given me a guide. What should I then assess when I'm interviewing this candidate? And a rubric to use for all those skills as well, because it's getting the idea of how I interview, my style. It's really good. Now, offer time. I need to prepare a McKinsey-style report on salaries. I'm working for this client. I want to basically encourage them to spend the right amount of money. So I want to give some research. Normally this stuff we go and we research ourselves. We put together a report. ChatGPT pulled together a report in McKinsey style of salary levels for people like this in Hungary, maybe compare it to other sectors, maybe compare it to other markets in the region as well. We heard so many data points in our first presentation. Let's put that all in there. So now we have a McKinsey style report, goes for current salary levels, talks about comparison with other sectors, trends over the past 3 years, how they're going, benefits analysis, comparison with other sectors again for benefits, what competitive salary we should therefore offer, long-term incentives, conclusions, and then the sources of all that as well. Amazing work. Hand that to my client. I'm concerned my client, though, may not appreciate how difficult the skills are to hire for in this market. Can you prepare analysis of the skill trends for roles like this in Hungary and neighboring markets? So I want to push them to maybe give a great offer, incentivize them to with a bit of pressure that it's really hard to find talent like this. Give me insights from the last 5 years, where they're going for the next 5 years, and use some publications and expertise on that. So again, here's our McKinsey style report, our historical trends, which shows the demand for technological proficiency, focus on strategic decision-making, regulatory changes in the industry, gives me a country-by-country analysis in Poland, Czech Republic, Austria, talks about future skills reports I can give to my client to guide them. And then through all this comes up with a revised recommendation for a higher salary to be offered for someone like these skills as well, and gives McKinsey, Deloitte, Gartner, and World Economic Forum as the results. Now I'd like to run a social media ad to try and see if there's any other cadence out there. Can it do more than write text for me? It absolutely can. It's doing so many things. So let's do a social media ad to maybe attract a more younger demographic, right? Being biased here. So it's going to write an ad campaign. It misunderstood what I asked it to do. So let's pause that. No. Can I design the images for the ad to hire for the director of finance for Audi? Give it a second, spins the wheel. Again, it's going to create an image that never existed before. Drive your future with an Audi car on a road, beautiful. Gives me some copy I can put on the social media ads to share with that, some hashtags to use to put out there. Literally running my social media campaign and suggestions for it as well. The clients come back to say that they want a more diverse shortlist. This client is just driving me mad. Nothing makes this client happy. Okay, tell me some groups in Hungary or organizations where I might find some senior women in finance, because I'm going to have to go direct to those groups, but I don't know who they are. So it's going to go off and try and find me a list of professional organizations where I might find senior women in finance in Hungary. Goes off and develops a list for me that I can now investigate to try and connect with those organizations. ChatGPT, it's been a wonderful 12 minutes. Look at the work we've got done. There are a lot of people who talk about the need for learning how to write prompts, prompt engineering. You need to be expert at this. You need training on this. We have training on this. You don't need it. It might make you better. You just need to try it. I'd encourage you all, if you haven't done this already, when you're using something like Gemini or ChatGPT, don't type. I typed because I needed to try and capture that for you. I never type. I speak. Because it does better when you just talk to it. Hey, ChatGPT, I'm recruiting for a blah, blah, blah role. It doesn't matter if you do ums, ahs, mistakes, go back on yourself. It figures it all out because it's a really smart PhD assistant working for you. You keep your browser open, you refresh the page, you copy and paste into your CRM or your messages or whatever it might be. Using these tools is unbelievably powerful. There's so many more things you can use it for. I'd encourage you all to push it to its limits. It doesn't always get the right answer. It's an assistant. It is not a recruiter. You're the recruiter. You're doing that amazing job. I'd encourage your teams to use it more as well. But interestingly, a further piece of evidence from this study that I didn't mention was that when you looked at experienced recruiters versus non-experienced recruiters, the very experienced recruiters did worse using AI than non-experienced. Non-experienced recruiters were more trusting of some of the benefits of AI. And actually, the very experienced recruiters with the best AI, they second-guessed it, all right, on the very best ones. But then in the middle, you found that when it's a weaker AI, the inexperienced recruiters just relied on the AI because they knew no better. But the experienced recruiters really excelled because they recognized when the AI was not doing a great job, and they were able to really improve it and add their personality. So it isn't just about who's got the best AI. In fact, it's not who's got the best AI. It's the best AI with the best recruiter. We still need amazing recruiters to pay attention, to have the experience and knowledge we have, to guide it, to coach it, to choose the recommendations we use, to adjust it. That's what makes an amazing recruiter in 2024. If you're interested in learning more about co-pilots, I'd highly recommend this book by Ethan Mollick. He's a professor in the Wharton School of Business in the US. He's unbelievable. He advises some of the biggest governments and companies in the world on AI. He's so passionate. Check out his YouTube videos on using AI. They're really accessible. He has fun. He plays with it. And this book is brilliant. He only published it about a month ago, and it's the best guide to using AI I'd ever recommend. We've got some prompts you can use to get you going if you feel you need prompts. But genuinely, your voice is the best prompt. If you can talk, you can use AI to really, really superpower and supercharge your recruiting. It is the future. It is not the replacement. It's going to augment all of our skills really, really well. But you just got to dive in, experiment, and take chances. Thank you. I don't think we've time for questions, do we?
I'm sorry we don't.
We don't. Folks, thank you. See you later.